Hey, good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. Again, Friday, January 31st, 2025 at 11:15 in the morning. So now we're here to have an introduction. Paul Killoran from the Vermont Law School and Vermont Law and Graduate School, talking about Vermont Small Business Law Center. Paul, thank you for joining us this morning. We certainly appreciate your time and interested to hear what you have to tell.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. And just wanted to state for the record, my name is Nicole Killoran. I'm the director of the Vermont Small Business Law Center and Clinic at Vermont Law and Graduate School. I'm going to go ahead and share a slideshow here. You guys should have this presentation. Oh, host is not allowing sharing for this meeting. May I have permission, please?
I'm making you co-host now.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. All right. All right. So, Vermont Small Business Law Center, we provide legal services for Vermont small businesses. I'd like to give you guys an introduction to what we do, give you an idea of sort of the numbers of people that we serve, and then I'd like to walk through the recent trends that we've seen for 2024 in terms of the needs that businesses have for legal support. Let's see. So, brief introduction, who are we, what do we do? As you can see, we provide access to legal services for small businesses. We do that with 3 different services. We do individual educational consults. We can bring in a business owner, and our team of faculty and staff will research any question that they have and provide an educational consult. They'll provide information that will help the business owner understand and address the question themselves and get ready to work with an attorney. We also have a paid referral system with the Vermont Bar Association. This allows us to both feed the firms in the Vermont Bar. We have about 40 firms that are signed up on a low bono panel. They take a reduced rate to take these clients, these small business clients. They provide the services that they need. We pay for up to 10 hours of services, no cost to the business. We also provide public educational events. We have done quite a few educational events in the course of this program, and a lot last year, as you'll see. We like to speak to groups of business owners. We especially like to speak to the incubator and accelerator groups, the cohorts of businesses that are starting up or building cool tech or just trying to figure out how to grow their business. We like doing group presentations as well. Our partners, we could not function without, of course. The Vermont Small Business Development Center was our first partner. We first started working with them back at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. Very small partnership and program at that time. We just had a few businesses that their business advisors were working with who had legal questions they needed answered. They sent them over to our team and we started answering their questions. With the Community Navigator pilot program, we were invited to be one of the spokes for that. We were able to establish the referral system with Vermont Bar Association through CNPP. That gave us a pot of money to work with to be able to do those paid referrals, the 5 to 10 hours for each business who needed it. It was very successful. We are currently working on a congressional grant. We're working on a grant that's administered through the Small Business Administration. We also, as you can see, we have a lot of community and business development partners. We can't do anything. We can't do our work without them. We really rely heavily on the business support providers, both for referrals and also we provide some needs to them when they have legal questions that come up. We also work, as I said, with the incubator and accelerator programs across the state. And this is just a list of most of the ones that we've worked with so far. We have served we've gotten intake requests from almost 300 businesses last year. We did educational consultations with 149 of them. We placed 168 with an attorney or they are in process of being placed they're with the Vermont Bar Association waiting for placement. We have another 39 that are signed up for educational consults through April 15th, and we've done over 80 educational presentations to groups of business owners and flood clinics in the last year. These 2 charts that I've got just show you the number of entities that we have served, or the number served based on the entity type. And one of the topics that I'll highlight here in the trends from 2024 is that there was quite a few uncertain businesses that didn't know what form they wanted to take. And it was a split between LLC and nonprofit. There's a lot of interest in starting up nonprofits right now, as you can probably understand. There was also a lot of topics discussed. This is the sort of the big categories that we put the topics discussed into. As you can see, questions about contracts, questions about entities, both licensing and registration, and also drafting operating agreements, governance agreements. Lots of conversations about liability, insurance, and lots of conversations about intellectual property, especially copyright and trademark. What are we hearing from small businesses? This slide is sort of anecdotal reports. This is a combination of our observations and the results from the Community Navigator pilot program that Vermont Professionals of Color and Main Street Alliance and VTSBDC put together. The results there were that business owners don't know what they don't know about the law. They find the law to be confusing and scary. They don't know whether, when, and how to work with an attorney. Lawyers are pretty much out there and they don't know that they can work with them, let alone afford them. Lawyers are not representative of the business owner or their background. And this is the thing that I hear more than anything from business owners. They want to get it right. They want to make sure they're in compliance, that they're taking the right steps, that they're dotting all their I's and crossing their T's. They want to be good business owners. These are some of the trends that we have seen in our work. Again, almost 300 businesses coming in, and we've talked to almost 150 of them. There's a lot of nonprofit interest right now. There's a lot of people who want to form nonprofits. There's a lot of people who are hearing about fiscal sponsorships, who are considering fiscal sponsorships. We are, yes.
We
I'm
lost
sorry.
for a minute.
Oh, you want me to go back?
Yeah, no, I think,
The feed kept going, but we didn't hear you.
The last thing we heard was that they want to make sure they're getting it right.
That's, yeah, we're in the right place then.
Okay. Up with the Wi-Fi.
okay.
Okay,
I think
good to
we're
go?
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest trend that we've seen the last year is real big interest in nonprofits. There's a lot of businesses that are sole proprietorships or LLCs that really want to do good work. They want to do charitable work. They want to serve their community, and they are considering either a fiscal sponsorship. That's become a popular topic that we've seen people come to us with, and that we've also suggested to people who want to start a nonprofit. We've seen a lot of interest in going from a for-profit model to a nonprofit model. We have seen a surprising amount of interest in going from a nonprofit model to a for-profit model, which is not really a thing that can happen. And then there's been a lot of interest in just running a nonprofit alongside a for-profit business as almost a community service arm of that organization. That was one of the most common questions that we saw in the last year. We did a lot of work in flood recovery. We did a series of flood clinics and did some expedited services to businesses for the 2023 and 2024 floods. That was one of the biggest needs that we saw. A lot of people dealing with commercial leases. That was the big fallout from the flood. We saw so many business owners who had poorly written leases with no provision for what to do in the event of a disaster, what to do, what the landlord is responsible for. There was a lot of problems with commercial leases after the floods. And as a result, landlord disputes, lots of those came out of the floods, and relocations. A lot of businesses moved locations and found another commercial space. Of interest to y'all might be that we have seen some businesses come through and some nonprofits as well who are interested in participating in the death with dignity industry or the medical assistance in dying industry. We've seen nonprofits that want to support families who are bringing folks in to conduct their death here. And we have spoken with at least one motel owner who was very alarmed to have somebody come and conduct a death in one of their motel rooms. There is an increasing awareness. I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
No.
Oh, I apologize. There was a feedback. We've seen increasing awareness of the availability of these services in Vermont for out-of-state residents. And as a result, there's an industry building up. And I know there's been some reporting from VT Digger about this as well. We've spoken with some of those organizations. It's pretty interesting. Health coaching and mental health counseling. There's a lot of small solo and small practitioners that are starting up businesses right now that we're talking to.
Nicole, we have a question on.
Sure. Sure.
We have an industry starting with people coming up here to die.
Yes. Correct. The opening up of this service of the ability to conduct one's death in Vermont, even if you're an out-of-state resident, has resulted in an influx of out-of-state residents who want to be able to conduct their own death under their own circumstances. So they're coming into the state. They're finding support organizations who are able to help them coordinate the location, to help the family members with support. So we've talked to a couple of what they call death doulas who help the family through the death experience. Yeah, we've seen an industry pop up around this. I'm sorry, did my audio cut out?
No,
you're good.
Okay, you just want me to continue? I'll keep going.
I mean, I'm stunned by it. That's all. I'm stunned that I didn't realize that we had an industry of people coming up to Vermont to, I mean, I could see if you're like dying and you want to spend the last days up here because it's beautiful, but based on what you're saying, you're talking about patient-assisted suicide in an industry based around that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's jarring for me. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. No problem. I know it was surprising for us when they started to trickle in, and then we saw more and more come in, and it's like, okay, this is an industry. It's growing.
We have an idea of how much money is
No,
being
I
put into
don't.
this industry.
I don't. I know we've spoken with 2 nonprofits that want to do coordinating family support, and we've spoken with 2 death doulas, and then the motels I mentioned that wasn't sure what to do because they don't really want to have people conducting their deaths in their motel rooms. They basically went with a written policy to have customers sign that say that they will not conduct their own deaths in their hotel rooms. There's going to be other motels that probably will want to welcome that kind of activity in their motel rooms. So there is actually some opportunities for other business owners, interestingly enough. It is a new industry. Would you like me to continue or any other questions on that point?
I think we're good to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. The increased awareness of beneficial ownership information reporting, I think that was a good thing to come out of it. I know it's sort of on pause right now, but BOI reporting has been a new requirement at the federal level for small businesses. It applies to almost every business in the state. And we have been trying to inform every business owner that we speak with of their obligation, the basics, what they need to do so they can stay in compliance. There has been a lot of awareness about data privacy issues. Both on the website end, where a lot of people have had questions about conducting commerce on their website or conducting just transactions online, period, how to keep customer data private. There was some awareness that came up around the discussions of the data privacy revisions this last year as well. Some business owners were paying attention to that and asking questions. A lot of transitions right now, a lot of mergers and acquisitions, a lot of asset deals. Actually, in particular around the businesses that are coming out of the flood and having to close, we're seeing a lot of people try to pick up these businesses and just try to give relief to the owner or just pick up the whole thing and buy the whole thing. We have seen some interest in slow transfers, interest in either a generational transfer like you might see on a farm with the next generation slowly transferring into ownership of the farm. We've seen that, and we've seen increased interest in that. Just in non-farm businesses, people who really want to keep their business in the community, but they want to find a young entrepreneur to transition it to over time. Lots of discussions about intellectual property, as you can see, especially copyright and trademark. We've had quite a few infringement consults that we've talked to this year. There's a lot of people who have had, especially nonprofits, unfortunately, there was one in particular had an intern that pulled an image from the internet and put it on their website, and then they got an infringement claim. There's trolls out there. There's people who are looking for opportunities to push a business or an organization into some sort of settlement because they used a picture and they didn't have permission to do so. It's definitely been a big topic for the businesses we've been talking to, though.
Are we still seeing a lot of patent trolls in the state, or has that calmed down?
I have not, to be honest with you, I haven't seen any questions around that topic. I have seen a lot of questions around patenting, but not about patent trolls. I haven't seen really infringement claims on patents come through our clinic either. Mostly copyright and trademark infringement.
Thank you.
Yes. Contracts, big topic. Lots of need for people to understand how to write good contracts, how to make them, what they can put in them, what they can't put in them, and then enforcing and defending. We will occasionally have an educational consult, which is kind of tricky. We don't give legal advice in those consults, but we'll have an educational consult where we will talk to someone who's on the edge of getting into a lawsuit or needs to resolve some sort of a dispute about the contract that they're in with another vendor. Those are tricky conversations to have, but there's a lot of need for just understanding how to negotiate a contract. That simple skill of how do you negotiate a dispute with a vendor? How do you work out a disagreement over a contract? Lots of questions around that. And then you can see sort of the 3 little industries that we've seen pop up that this is sort of my delight too, because I like this stuff. Gluten-free and vegan food production has been sort of surging. We've talked to quite a few businesses who do that. Tourism and hospitality, especially agritourism and on-farm business tourism, that has been popping up quite a bit. And then earlier in the year, especially, we saw some folks who tried to take advantage of the ADU funding, and been a lot of interest in building the accessory dwelling units and also just tiny homes, try to address the housing crisis.
We have another question for you.
Sure.
Yeah, Herb Olson, just going back to, I think, your three focuses of activity, and one of them was being able to help qualified businesses with a referral program to attorneys. What are can you just describe generally what the criteria are for being qualified? And I also didn't understand that the 10 hours of paid, who ends up paying the attorney?
Sure. So to qualify for those 10 hours, a business owner really just needs to qualify for our services, which is less than 20 employees. So if they have less than 20 employees, they qualify for our services. That is partially because we, the entire state is rural, according to the SBA. Population size in every city in the state is rural. So we offer our services statewide. So really, they just have to contact us and they have to have less than 20 employees. And then the referral system. So the way that it goes, we have a congressionally directed spending grant that's administered by SBA that we use to, we have a program with the Vermont Bar Association. They maintain a panel of 40 attorneys that when we do an educational consult, so I guess I should mention that, I'm sorry, we tend to prefer that people do an educational consult with our team before they get a referral to an attorney. It's not required, but we try to make sure that they're in good shape before they go on to that next step. The referral system is, it goes to the Bar Association, they find the attorney, they connect them with the client. When it comes to the billing, the firm bills the Bar Association bills us, we pay it out of our grant.
Okay, thank you.
That is actually the end of my presentation. That's all the bullet points that I had. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Sure.
It may have been in your presentation before. Well, I suppose, in other words, if you wanted to tell your constituent, this is how you get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Sure. We're at SBLC for Small Business Law Center.vermontlaw.edu.
Thank you.
What are your general wait times for service?
Those are tricky. We have, we look out at least 3 months for scheduling educational consults, and we are pretty booked up. We've got some spots in late March and early April. That's the educational consults. And then for the referrals, it depends on the need really, and it depends on the area of the state. We tend to target, or the Vermont Bar Association targets the attorneys in the area who have said that they'll take certain needs, contract dispute or somebody's trying to do a copyright or something like that. She will ask for somebody to pick up the case. They'll pick it up. It can be anywhere between 2 and 8 weeks. Sometimes it can be quicker. We also just wanted to mention, we have the referral program, the Vermont Bar Association, with a portion of the CDS funds that we have. We are doing a timely need response. So we have a couple of attorneys, firms on contract that we can refer someone to if they have a lease review they got to do in the next week, or if they have, a contract review they got to do. We have a bucket that we can use to sort of send them on within the course of a week or 2.
Thank you.
John?
Something that our committee has been speaking about, and I think will throughout the session, is about data privacy. It was a smaller concern in terms of its frequency than I had thought. So I really appreciated seeing those topics on that slide. To the best of your recollection, what were some of those concerns about? Can you speak to, or they, it's just 9, it's a small number, but are there any common threads in that data privacy column that we might benefit from knowing more about?
Yes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear of what the requirements are, how they can comply with them. There's a lot of concerns and confusion about whether they need a policy, what the policy should say. Is there a sample policy they can use? I saw the most concern, most of those numbers were about people conducting online sales and having an inkling that when they're conducting online sales, if they're doing transactions through their website or they're doing transactions period, they're learning that, oh, wait, I'm retaining personal information. They're getting an idea that they need to protect that data and they need to take steps to protect it. So the awareness of data privacy requirements is not very broad from what I can see. There's a big need for education in that area. But mostly they're fearful. They want to make sure they're in compliance, and they just really don't know what they need to do to protect the information they have.
Thank you.
Questions? Cole, have you taken any questions on non-compete clauses?
Not lately. We did actually, we had a few questions come up last year. Have not seen that come up too much, no. I know that the
No.
FTC is looking at that pretty closely, and if it has come up, we've mentioned that we've mentioned a couple of pointers about how they can be constructed, but that the FTC is leaning towards disfavoring them. And that's just been a couple times in the last year.
Okay, thank you. I think we're gonna have to start a discussion on non-competes in here.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Any other questions?
Hi, Nicole. Thanks so much for being here. I'm consistently pleasantly overwhelmed by the amount of service that you provide to the state, and I
thank
just
you.
so much appreciate what you do. Can you talk a little bit more about the public educational events, how you decide what you're going to do, where you do them, how you publicize them, how we
Sure.
can get our business owners in the state on your list so that they can be aware of them, all of those kinds of.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a number of requests that come in to do, little bits at conferences and at things like that. We actually have done some events with VTSBDC for example, training childcare workers and childcare business owners on some of the requirements that they have and setting up their LLC. So some events through our partners, we have a series going through CVOEO that it addresses just common legal topics. That's once a month, and then we'll have open office hours with them. Those are advertised through CVOEO and some of the other capstone agencies and through our website. We have an events page. Also want to mention on our website, we have a library of past presentations that we've recorded with the materials. Please feel free to send people there. There's a bunch of different topics that they can touch on, from bankruptcy to entity formation. So we do a lot of events with our partners. CVOEO series, we have a series going with Vermont Professionals of Color. That's not publicly open because they create an affinity space, and so it's a restricted access. But that is something that anybody who's a member of VTPOC, if they want to join those events, they can join those events. Those are on their website, and I believe we put them on ours as well. Otherwise, we scheduled some flood clinics over the last year. We just had an ongoing series once a month that we were running with Legal Services Vermont and Vermont Legal Aid when they had funding for that. And it's sort of responsive for the rest of them. I will mention that we're starting a series right now. We're testing it out with some of our clientele, but we're going to open it up to the public. And it's going to be Startup Legal Basics. We'll run this twice a month. It'll be a webinar that anybody can join. We will probably have to restrict numbers so we can have a productive discussion with 10 to 12 business owners, but we'll plan to do that twice a month to get people in to answer their basic questions. We found that we can't meet anymore the basic questions that people have because we don't have enough funding to expand. So we're directing the questions that used to be the majority of what we did, which is LLC, entity formation, basic contract stuff. We're directing them to the Startup Legal Basics now to see if they can get their questions answered. And if they need additional services, they can do a one-on-one or they can do a referral. But that's what we're doing right now. Definitely advertising that as broadly as possible. And anybody, once it's open to the public, is welcome to join.
Last session, when we were talking about data privacy, it came up to use your organization or a partner, I guess, with your organization about sharing information for folks on for businesses on how to be compliant with whatever policy, however it goes forward. Is that still something that you're amenable to?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, I would love to have the opportunity to educate the public on all of those things that I put up in the bullet points. We try to be responsive as much as possible. And so we see those trends coming up, and we'll schedule a webinar to try to address that topic. And then we'll have the recording on our website. We would love to do any of that work for the state, for the legislature. We're ready for it. We're here for it. We are admittedly looking for funding for it. So if that's a part of the package too, that'd be great. But we're ready to educate the public.
Abby?
So the slide showing all the different things people are asking and the trends is super interesting and helpful. And I'm curious if there are topics or legal issues that you think people should be asking about more that they're not. You know what I mean? So like sort of.
I believe people should be asking questions about data privacy more. I think that it's a very understood issue, and it is critical for businesses to comply with. I think that there are probably not enough questions about contracts. People are just using a form that they've used for a long time, or they haven't really thought through what they need to do to protect themselves. Commercial leases will need some help. Commercial leases, I think about the base requirements, the base rights and responsibilities protected under the Residential Rental Agreement Act, and how that provides a little bit of stability for residential tenants and landlords. They know what to expect. They know what the notice requirements are. Some sort of base protections for commercial leases, even so much as providing a habitable space for the business owner to occupy, would probably be helpful. And that's just coming out of the floods. I saw so many commercial lease problems. Those areas are areas of need, and those are probably the biggest ones that I see.
Thank you.
Other questions? Nicole, thank you very much. Very informative, and appreciate
Yes.
Everything that you're doing to help the business community.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Another thing.
We're going to Newport. Spending all the drive back.
Is there any dividends too? Any questions? So we're back here at 1. We're going to hear from Vermont Weekend Grocers Association, and then we're going to have a conversation with the Deputy Commissioner Neck on page 99 that we looked at yesterday and had some testimony on. I think we'll finish up our conversation on page 34 and see if we're a good point to vote it out. So I'm hoping, well, we need to be done. We have our stop at 2:30. So then you get to go home.
You say hard, what do you mean hard stop at
We
2:30?
have
We're gonna,
meetings.
yeah.
Oh, you,
So, I mean, we have a hard stop, we have to stop the committee.
I mean, I don't